There it is. Even as I looked, I went, wait a minute, didn't hear it. Okay, so the first thing I was going to talk about was so there's like our little topic of little PDF that Miss Katie sent with like our list of our words for this week. The top of it has like the concepts like we're going to discuss. So I thought we'd go ahead and talk about those first, just because I think those are some more interesting things to discuss. And then we can get into more of our signs with our feelings. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is if you see it says SIMCOM. And so what that means is it means simultaneous communication. And that is the sign is a S and a C and you go SIMCOM. Now what this is this is when it's kind of what I do a lot in this class where I'm talking, but I'm also signing. And what's interesting about this is that a lot of people think that's easier, especially for hearing people. It's actually not. So the reason for that is because it's the same concept if you were trying to speak English and Spanish at the same time. One language is going to take over more than the other. So one's going to be like more the accurate, correct, like structure, grammar, and everything, while the other one's going to kind of just get a little shaky. What's really interesting about simcomming is that for me, like here, like how I'm talking to you guys right now, my English is the stronger language right now. So my ASL, my signing is a little bit, it's not ASL. It's not the ASL structure. It's not the ASL grammar. It's more, I don't know. Have we talked about like signing exact English?
We have a little bit.
So,
Um, I think maybe when I say a little bit, I mean, you might have mentioned it in maybe the first or second lesson.
and then I might have not elaborated on it as much. So I'll explain that as well. This is going to be a little bit of a discussion class for the moment. So signing exact English, C, is basically when you are signing every word in the English structure and English grammar. That is when you would say things like, I am going to the store. So what I did there is I was not signing an ASL. So if you notice when I did go, it's the sign is go. It's like you're starting off like a open queue and you're pinching to that 20, go. And if you notice, I did the ing. Now, if you remember when we were talking about our time and our time signs, and we talked about last week, next week, and all of those, I said that when you're using things like that, like the ed, will be, those kinds of things, we don't actually have to sign those specific parts because they're embedded in the sign that we're using, like last week. When you're doing signing exact English, you would use them and you would do I worked at school. Like you'd have to fingerspell those English parts that we don't typically sign. So that's what C is for. It's like you're signing the English part. Because ASL is not completely, it's very different. It has its own grammar and own structure. Now, so when you're doing that simcomming, it does tend to be more C because of that. It's always kind of interesting, but yeah, it's not an easy way of communicating, especially if you're trying to do both languages like equal, like treating them equally.
I
No, it
think the
doesn't.
reason it works for you is because you you're explaining an introductory lesson. You know what I'm saying? But like you wouldn't do that if you were like somebody training someone how to like fly an airplane or something. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
the more complicated your language, the less you could do that.
exactly. And so with that, it's actually what I was going to say. What was interesting was like how I said here, my English is kind of the top language I'm using. I am signing, but it's not that correct ASL. But when I'm at school, I will catch myself doing the ASL correct and then voicing the ASL structure of my sentence. So I will change my English. So my English starts going down while my ASL just starts. And I've caught myself many times voicing sentences that were not in the correct English. And I've caught it and I go, ooh, that did not sound right. I know what that's supposed to sound like. And that was not that, that was ASL. Which I think is just always kind of interesting. So it kind of, I flip flop a lot. But sim calming is, I always like to say, is I don't recommend it being like the first thing you'd want to do. Typically, if you're trying to learn a language, especially ASL, my first recommendation is try to voice off, because that way it's teaching your brain how to think in that ASL grammar structure. Because if you're still trying to talk while also signing, you're not doing ASL. You're just still in that English brain. I always like to think there's two parts of your brain. There's the English, there's the ASL. And when you're trying to sign fully, you want to be in the ASL sign, not in this English sign. So that's my little TED talk about sim calming. Because I always think that's an interesting topic to talk about. Let's see. I was trying to see what else. Yeah, I think I said. Yes. So that was kind of everything. David, I know you just joined us. I was talking about how when you talk and sign at the same time, which I know I typically do a lot of the time, the sign is a S and a C, and you go back and forth, which is the sign for simcomming, which is simultaneous communication. And I was talking about how, while I know, at least for me, when I was learning ASL, I thought as a hearing person, I was like, oh, that's easier. That would be the best way to first talk to someone. No, actually kind of the opposite, because it's the same concept as if you were trying to talk in English and also talk in Spanish at the same time. Because one language is going to take over and the other one is going to garble down and just kind of lose its way. So yeah, that was my little spiel on that. And then I was going to say, what was this? So what is actually interesting about the school that I work at. So I do work at a deaf school. Obviously, I think I've said that. And what's interesting is that not all my kids are completely deaf. There are some kids who have speech and have the cochlear implants and have the hearing aids. And so we kind of have to work with our groups of our kids to best what benefits and helps them the most. And so one of our things that's always kind of a interesting conversation is their primary mode of language, which is ASL. But there's some that are few that are English because they came from the public school, transferred, and they learned spoken language first. But I do always think it's interesting because we do actually provide speech services at my school still. So we are very open, bilingual. That's the bilingual approach with it all. But yeah, so I'm going to stop there. And if you have more questions, let me know. I will happily answer more questions. But I didn't want to
just to clarify. So the school is like your approach is definitely it's a bilingual approach to got you. Okay. I just want to make sure if I put it in the notes that I was saying the right thing.
Yes. Because like, for example, if I'm teaching a class and all my kids, let's say half of my kids are deaf, half of them are hard of hearing. What I do first is I sign an ASL first. So full voice, just sign, and finish. I'll follow up with the voicing afterwards. Okay, that's a good question. So when would you sign exact English versus ASL? Depending on the job or career, kind of the context of it all. For example, for me, if I'm trying to be like, I'm the reading teacher and I'm trying to teach them to read the sentence, but I want them to identify like the specific parts, like the articles, like the and a and, then I would do that signing exact English for them to notice that. But if I wanted them to understand what's the meaning of that sentence, I would actually translate it into ASL. So it flip-flops back and forth depending on what you need. There are some times where when we're providing like trainings or testings or things like that, where we have to follow a specific step-by-step process, we will have to sign in exact English because we cannot change the sentencing. It's an interesting discussion for sure. So that's because this is signing exact English is more of a change up of ASL. ASL I'm trying to figure out how to not spiral this so fast to totally like go crazy because I can do that. ASL actually roots from French Sign Language. That was where we have gotten our language that started, and that expanded here. There was Laurent Clerc, that was his name, and Thomas Gallaudet. They both were separate times. Oh, my history is going to blend, and I can already hear my coworkers yelling at me here. But Laurent Clerc was in France, and he was teaching kids who were deaf and working with them, and they had their French sign language. And Thomas Gallaudet saw it and realized that they needed something here in America. And so that's how they brought over ASL. The reason is ASL is like the same concept I would say is that, Spanish changes a few things up too in their sentence structure. They don't follow that English structure. The same concept for ASL. ASL has its own language, its own grammar, own structure, everything of that, because that's how the language flourished. And so you have, if we were to change it to be that English, it's not that still. It's like a cultural thing. It's a cultural language impact, all of it in one. And so if you were to transfer it over to English, just because it makes it easier on hearing people, doesn't make it easier on deaf people. We sign things a little bit weird. And I mean, not sign things. We talk, we speak, the way we speak languages, the sentences we use are a little bit weird sometimes. And so if you were to transfer that over to ASL in just signing exact English, it does not make as much sense as it should or it could, whereas taking on ASL. Does that make sense? I know I'm like, blah, 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 blah. I'm trying to think of how the best to word and describe it all. But like my best example is like the different ways we describe when it's raining or when we're feeling sad. We'll say, I'm just feeling so blue today. I'm feeling, just feeling kind of ugh. Like we have all these different words we use to describe different things, but the meaning is still there. We are feeling sad. Or like if it's raining, we'll say like it's raining cats and dogs, like it's a torrential storm outside, even though it's not, it's just raining. We say a lot of different wording. If we were to sign that exactly in English, that's not gonna that's not gonna make sense to them. Like it's raining cats and dogs. There's that literal sense that's there. And so if you were to straight up say it's raining cats and dogs, I can tell you for a fact, they're gonna judge you and probably tease you. Then that's the nice way. That's the nice way. You got to focus on what's the meaning of the sentence. So, yeah. Any other questions? Okay. If you have more, when they pop up, I'll answer them. What we'll do now is we'll go ahead and start talking about our feelings. I always think this one can be a little bit fun and interesting because there's so many different ways to talk about like our emotions and stuff. So the first sign we're going to do is the sign for feeling. Now the sign for feeling is you're going to have your middle finger. You're going to start at the center of your chest and flick up. Feel. Feel. So this is feeling. This is also feel. Like I feel happy today. I feel blah, blah, blah. Now, if you were talking about the texture of something that feels weird, I don't think you would want to do feel. You could, like that's sticky, sorry. I would be like that was sticky. There'd be kind of a change. So the feeling like of touching stuff would be a little bit different. That you more just kind of point to. You can still do feel. It can just, to me, at least to me, I like to have them clarified a little bit different. All right, the next one we're going to do is the sign for happy. So the sign for happy is you're going to start with your hands kind of near your shoulders and you're going to pat up. Happy, happy, happy. Now, what's really important when we get started with our signing feelings is your face needs to match your feeling. And what I say by that is if you say, I'm really happy today, they're not going to think you're actually talking about you being happy. Now, I know for some people, you may not show a lot of expression on your face. That's totally fine. That's normal. I am just one of those that like, you know how I'm feeling. No matter what, you're going to know how I'm feeling. And so I know it's going to be harder for some people. And I just kind of recommend when you do that, being a little bit more mindful. You don't have to go full like, so excited, blah, 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 but just a little bit aware of like, you might want to do like a little smile just to show something that's just enough to show that you're not being like sarcastic. Because that will confuse them if you're doing this, but your face is not showing it. The next sign we're going to do is the sign for happy birthday, because I don't think we've done that yet. So we're going to do that real quick. And that is, you would still do happy. And then the sign for birthday. If you remember when we did the sign for favorite, we had our middle finger on our chin. You're going to do the same thing here, but then bring it to the chest. Birthday. 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 So if you're going to say happy birthday, you would go happy birthday. Okay. Let's see. We've only done, okay. I love how I've already lost count after 3 signs. All right. The next one is sad. Now, sad is going to be 2 open hands slightly in front of your face. And you're going to go sad. 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 I feel like when you can see yourself signing and things and seeing the face, it just kind of cracks you up. Because even I looked at myself and I was like, oh my gosh, me just being so dramatic with my little puppy dog face over here. The next one we're going to have is the sign for mad. Now, mad has a few different ways you can describe it. And it's, I think they're really cool. So I'm going to show you guys a bunch of different ways. But the generalized mad is mad. It's like a bent 5 and mad. Mad. Mad, one hand up is another way. Mad, or whoo, she's mad right now. So let's see. I'm trying to think of how many there are. We'll do 3. So we have this original with our mad, the mad, mad. The next one is like you are just blowing up. You are so angry. Oh no, there is 4. I knew there was a 4th one. I was staring at this 4 going, why am I doing 4 when I think of 3? No, there was another one that came up right there. Like you're blowing up, you are so angry. And that one is similar to our soda. If you remember when we did our food, so we have our non-dominant fist. Our dominant is got that middle finger, like it's gonna flick open the tab to open up the can. And you're gonna go flick up and you're gonna wiggle your fingers really high and slam it back down. Like, ooh. And the concept I love with this is that it's like when you shake up a soda can and when you open it and it just spews out everywhere. And how, sometimes we can have that similar feeling when we're just holding in our anger, we're trying to keep calm, and then we just get so mad because something is not working or something's not going right. And we're just, and that is like a soda can blowing up. I mean, that would get your point across too. But yeah, so it's just a little like dance of the explosion of like this, the drink, the soda just spewing everywhere. I just think this one's such a fun one. Our next one is going to be fed up. Like, I'm so mad. I'm done. I'm fed up with all this. You start with your dominant hand kind of in this V. You're going to start kind of at the center of your chest and bring it all the way up to your chin. Fed up. Fed up. And you want to come under your chin for sure. Henry, no. Fed up. Fed up. Now, with this one, that also can mean full. Like you've eaten so much, you're full. So the way to differentiate them is your face. You gotta really show it here. Like I'm so fed up right now. You gotta look like you were done. You are done with this. Fed up versus like being like, oh, I'm full. Like that resting, like you cannot move your body. There's that difference. I will also say with this one, I am gonna say a little warning. Please be careful with that one. And the reason I say that is you could accidentally hurt yourself doing that. I've had coworkers who have bit their tongue because they have slammed up and they hit themselves so hard and didn't realize where their jaw, and they hit their jaw into their tongue. Sometimes signing can be a little bit hazardous and you can hurt yourself. So there's a few, especially when you have a lot of strong feelings happening right then and there, that you can do some accidental hurts to yourself. And that's one of them. Like fed up. Ooh, that one can really do some damage to your chin. And then The last mad one is boiling, like I'm fuming. Now for this one, you are going to use your non-dominant sideways. I'm gonna lift it up a bit higher so you can see. Typically it's right here. You can't see what this hand is doing down here. I'm gonna lift it up higher. And you're gonna have your dominant hand underneath wiggling like it's flames. Fuming. So it's here and it's like, it shows that like I'm just boiling inside. This is also kind of similar to the sign for like boiling something, like if you're gonna boil some water, that's where that like that connection comes through. And so with this one, again, you got to show your face like, I'm so mad, I cannot stand this. Ooh. So there's our little 4 signs for anger. I just think they're really fun. I'm sorry, I can't lie. Even though they're like just talking about being mad, I just think they're like really fun to do. Okay. Let's go back through those real quick. So we had feeling. Mhm. We had happy, happy birthday, happy birthday. Then we had sad, sad. And then we had our 4 little ways to sign mad. Mad or mad. Then we had our exploding soda, like slam down, like, woo, I'm human. Then we had our fed up. And then we had our I'm boiling. ASL can be really fun when you're talking about your feels. So you're okay. Our next one is going to be scared. If my phone will stop zooming out, I keep zooming it in so I have my list and it keeps going back to itself. So the one we had next is scared. Scared is going to start with like 2 S's, 2 A's. That part really is not a big difference. I say S's and then I catch myself doing A's sometimes. So you're going to have your dominant fist kind of up here, your non-dominant down lower, elbows not having to stick out. I was just being dramatic. And you're going to scared. So you're like opening, scared. And if you think about it, if someone scares you, your first instinct is your hands kind of come up. So it's that concept, scared. Then we have tired. Tired is going to start with like I don't think we've done half. I was about to say this is half, like we do our half, but I don't think we've done that one. So I'm just gonna add it here. I know it's not a feeling, but it's a good one to know. So the sign for half is you have your bent hand puppets and they kind of do like animal. They come here, but that's it. They just tap have. So this is have. Now, what I was going to say with tired is you start like you're doing have, and then you bend down with your shoulder slouch. Tired. Now, with this one, I did want to add some people can do one hand tired. You want to be careful with this one because this is also the sign for fault. So context is really, really important at that point. If you're asking them, how are you feeling? And they say tired, you can figure out that's probably tired. But that one can be an easy one to kind of confuse, thinking that tired versus fault. Okay. Our next one is going to be bored/boring. And that one is going to be your pointer finger. You're going to put it on the side of your nose and you're going to go bored. My favorite mindset when I think of this one is like a kid in class when they are bored out of their mind and their first thing they decide to do is start picking their nose. That's what I truly feel that is where this sign came from. Is a kid sitting there just going to town, picking their nose because they were bored out of their mind. So bored. The next one we have is excited. And so for excited, you're going to have those middle fingers again. And you're going to flick up on your shoulder, but you're going to alternate it. Excited. So it's like one up, the other up. And with this one, you want to kind of do it a little bit fast to show like it's exciting, you're excited. I always like to say sometimes you can also really show if you're more excited by the speed of it. Like there have been times where I'm like super, super excited and I'm like talking to my kids on how exciting it is. And I just go like so fast, like you can't even see, like it's just motion. And that is always, I think, is another way you can kind of tell, emphasize, and dramatize what you're trying to get your point across through. All right. The next one we have is calm. And so for calm, it's also like quiet. And you're going to start with your two hands kind of up here in front, like in front of each other. And you go calm, calm, calm. Calm, quiet. This one is the same for those. Then we have upset. So for upset, you're going to start with your hand, your dominant hand in that B, kind of on the top of your chest a little bit here. And then you're going to turn it upside. You're going to like flip it. Upset, 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 upset. Important thing to note with this one. Do not go big and do not go to your tummy. If you go to your tummy, you are saying pregnant, not upset. So if you're trying to tell someone I'm feeling upset right now and you go this, you're saying I'm feeling pregnant. Yeah, that's all I like. I've not done that. I've not made that mistake because I've never like that was something that mine like immediately was like, oh, I've got to make sure I separate those two. But that's just something I always think of, like worst case scenario. I'm like, that could be such an interesting conversation of confusion for sure. So upset. Our next one is embarrassed. Now, embarrassed is you're going to have your two fives and you're going to carefully brush, like you're not touching your actual cheek, but you're getting close to like brushing up your face. And it's embarrassed. 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 And the concept with this one is like the blood rushing to your cheeks. So, you know, when you get really embarrassed and your face turns really red, it's like the blood is flowing up to your face because you're so embarrassed right now. Embarrassed. Okay, let's do one more and then we'll go back. The next one we have is frustrated. And so for frustrated, you're going to have two B's and you're going to put them in front of your mouth like you're bumping into them. Frustrated, frustrated, frustrated. And like the concept with this is that like, you know, if you're trying to like kind of move along, keep going, but you keep bumping into roadblocks, basically. That's like my visual with it is like, I keep bumping into things and it's getting frustrating. Like I cannot, it's not a smooth process right now. So frustrated. Okay, let's go back to our scared, scared, scared. Then our tired, tired, tired. Are bored, bored, bored. Yeah, that one's a funny one. You can't not laugh with that one. Even when I'm like, are you bored right now to like my like kids, like just asking? And they're like, no. But even I sit there and I kind of giggle every time because that just a silly concept to me. Picking your nose. All right. Excited. Excited. Then calm. 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 Upset. 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 Embarrassed. Embarrassed. And then frustrated. Frustrated. Okay. How's everyone feeling so far? I want to check on everyone. Alexa, if you give us a little thumbs up or A-okay, I'll make sure before we move on. I want to make sure you're good. Or if you have any questions, put those in. Perfect. Okay. So our next one is we're going to do the sign for if this blue will go away, is nosy. Now, the reason this one is in this is because I always like to talk about how funny it is with my kids at school is they are some of the nosiest children you would ever meet. Okay, deaf kids are not shy, especially in their school. So if you ever showed up, like for example, when I was like my first day of like internship, when I was like coming to observe and everything, the amount of kids that just came up to me and kept asking me, "Who are you? Who are you? Who are you?" I mean, they kept asking me, and I was like,
I'm going to stop you right here and tell
"Yes,
you that everybody needs to know that you also ran a summer camp for all kinds of kids. So you have perspective.
yes, yes." I have. I've worked a summer camp for many, many, many years. I worked there as like a counselor in training from like seventh, eighth grade, all the
Mhm.
way up until like my years of college when I graduated, took a little break, came back and became camp director and everything. So like I have worked with all areas of kids. And I still can tell you for a fact, deaf kids are the nosiest kids ever. Like they're not because they're not afraid to ask you those like questions that you're just like, no, don't ask me that. Like, how old are you? Or like what like marriage questions, kids questions. Like, I mean, they'll ask you how old's your parents? How old's your mom? What's your mom's name? What's this? I mean, and you're just like, okay, you don't need my entire life history here. Like, I've been here for 5 minutes. And they have no shame for it. They have no shame. And I'm just like, you know what? We're gonna learn about how you can ask these questions, but man, whoo, they will ask you everything. And so because of that, sometimes I will have to tell the kids, you're being nosy right now. Like, quit it. And so the sign for nosy is just nosy. You point to your nose. Nosy. You're being nosy. Like you go, you nosy. They've also done that to me because they'll be drawing something on their paper and I just kind of want to look over and see and they'll look at me and go, nosy. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm nosy. I want to see what you're drawing. And they're like, and they'll show me. And it's always cool. They're really artistic, my kids. So I'm like, of course I'm gonna be nosy seeing your artwork. So well nosy. The next one is serious. So for serious is gonna have your pointer finger. You're gonna start kind of like it on the side and go serious, serious, serious. Serious. And you want to make sure it's like the center of your chin because if you come out here and do it, you look like you'll do candy or sour. So you want to kind of go serious. Like, I'm being serious right now. Seriously, serious. Okay. Next side. All right. Our next one is going to be funny. So funny is going to be these three fingers. You put the two together and you're going to brush your nose. Funny, funny, funny. Now, fun and funny have separate signs. They're similar, but they are separate. So whereas funny is this, funny, fun is you're gonna go, it's like the two fingers. You have your non-dominant also in the two. Tap your nose and down. Fun, 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 fun. Then our next one is silly. So silly, there are two ways you can do it. I'm going to show you the bigger one first, and then we'll start with the smaller one, or finish with the smaller one. So you have two Y's. You're going to have your dominant thumb touch your nose, your non-dominant thumb kind of come behind the pinky, and you go silly. They bounce. Silly, 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 silly. That one is used mostly like for ridiculously silly. Like that's like your extreme of someone's being really silly. You can also do the smaller one with just the one hand Y. Silly. Silly. It's like you're brushing that nose back and forth. Silly. Silly. The next one we have is sick. So for sick, you're gonna have your two middle fingers. You're gonna have both of them at the same time touch your forehead and your stomach. Sick, sick, sick. And that is for you're not feeling good. And I'm actually gonna add this here because I do think this is an important one to know. The sign for pain, like if you're hurting, hurt and pain. I think that's important, especially for like emergency situations. If you're asking someone like, "Are you sick?" and they're saying like, "Yes," and then they say they're hurting somewhere and you can't figure out what they're saying. So the sign for hurt and pain is hurt. It's like two pointing fingers and they just bounce in front. Hurt. Now, this one is directional, which I think we've done before. And so what that means is that where the pain is where you would sign it. So if you're talking about like having a headache, it's headache, headache. pointing of hurting up here. It hurts up here. If you were talking about having a stomach ache, you'd point down to the stomach. You can't see it, but I'm doing the same bouncing motion right in front of my stomach. If your arm is hurting, you would go arm and then go hurt. Because obviously you can't do that, would just be awkward. But you would do like it arm, it hurts.
So, Jillian, if you're asking someone if they are hurt, but you don't know where, like, how do you, if it's a direction of something you don't,
Okay.
that's hilarious.
That's a good question. I love how you saw my face just kind of was like, you're asking me a serious question. I saw that. I have a good one for that. I promise. So, but what I would do is if I'm asking if someone is hurting, I would say like, you hurt? Like I would just start in the general open area here, hurt. You hurt. If they tell me yes, like yes, they're hurting, I would say hurt where? And if it's like a kid, because typically kids do struggle sometimes to explain, like trying to tell, and it's the same, think about it, the same concept. If we're talking to a hearing child and they're saying they're hurt, and you're like, where are you hurting? Is it your head? Is it your shoulder? Is it your stomach? I would start listing, is it hurt here? Like I would kind of follow that motion, just to kind of clarify exactly where is it feeling. If your finger was hurting, you would still go, my finger hurts. Like I'd be like, it hurts. Like I would be pointing to it and bouncing. There's a few times I've done that where I've pinched myself, or I've gotten a paper cut, and I'm a little bit of a drama queen, and my kids know it. So I'll get a paper cut and I'll just sit there going like this, and they're like, "What's wrong? Were you okay? Is everything all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I just hurt my finger." And then I'll put a band-aid on in there. They can turn into little mothers sometimes.
Wait, what's wrong? What's wrong?
What's wrong? What's wrong? Like
Oh, okay.
yeah. So this is wrong is with the Y, wrong.
Okay.
Sometimes when you're asking, if you're like asking what's wrong, it's what's wrong, like what's wrong, like the tapping, but also the eyebrows down to show like you're asking a question, like what's wrong. You can do wrong what, but you can also what's wrong, that. Yeah, you'll catch those little signs that I do that I don't even realize I do. So
That's where the good vocabulary is.
honestly, it really is, because I do show the more ways of like, obviously it's we've talked about this before, the proper language way of saying something versus how it's more like naturally signed in a sentence. Same thing with like Spanish and everything. So, but yeah. So pain and hurt. Let's see. I was trying to think if there's any others that would be. No, I think those are the good basic ones for that. I had to think for a minute. Okay, let's come back to our feelings. All right, so our next one is proud. So for proud, you're gonna have I love how I turned it sideways, a thumbs up. You're gonna turn it upside down. Your thumb is gonna kind of start at your belly button and bring it all the way up. Almost think about like when you're zipping up a jacket. And like I have my thumb fully like center to my stomach. So when it comes up, it is like coming up the center. Proud. 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 Okay. Our next one is chill. This one also can be used like kind of as calm, cool. And you have 2 5s and you just pat back and forth. I'm cool. I'm calm. I'm chill. This one. Okay. All right. I think I have 3 more on this side. Yeah. Okay. The next one we have is the sign for annoy / bothering someone. And so for this one, you're going to have your non-dominant hand up sideways like this with the thumb sticking up. Your dominant hand is going to be the same thing. And you're going to come right between your thumb and your pointer finger. Annoy, bother. And you just tap it. So it's like the visualist thing about this is the interruption, and it keeps constantly bumping in, like it's blocking, like it's not a smooth continuation. So annoy, bother, annoying. She's annoying me. He's annoying me. She's bothering me. This also can be the sign for interrupt with the interrupt. The way that is kind of differentiated with that is interrupt is one hand, like one tap, like I've interrupted. So if you were going to interrupt a conversation and you want to be like, I'm sorry, like sorry for interrupting, I'd be like, sorry, and I'd interrupt. Now, this one is also a similar directional one. And the reason I say it for that is because when I put my hand up like this, I'm going to have the person here and here that I'm talking about interrupting, and then I'm going to come right in the middle. So I want to be like, if I was looking at, let's say, I love doing this. There's two people right here, and I look at them and I go, sorry, interrupt. And I put it over here. They're going to be like, they're going to look over for who I'm interrupting. They're literally going to look and see who you're talking about. So you want to make sure you do it towards them like you're showing, I'm interrupting you. That's why you don't have to add that. Sorry, I interrupt you. You don't have to, you just, sorry, interrupt. Interrupt. Okay. The next one we have is curious. And so the sign for curious is going to be a 9, but it's like open here. And you're going to stick your pointer finger. Wow, really took me a minute. Stared at it, said every other finger name in my head before I got to pointer. That was a little embarrassing. Pointer finger and your thumb. You're going to bring it to your chin and you're going to go curious. 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 And then our, not last one, it's the last one of this page before we go on to the next page, is ignore. For ignore, you're going to have 4 fingers kind of up. You're going to have your pointer finger come to your nose, and then you're going to slide it away. Ignore, ignore, ignore. This one is another one that's a very common one I use at school because kiddos do not know how to ignore each other. And my favorite thing about this one is the amount of times I say, just ignore them. They're doing their work. Or they're just ignore them. The angrier you get and fuss at them, the more that they're going to keep going. And my favorite thing that they will do is they'll go, okay, they'll look to the kid that's been bothering them and they go, ignore you. I'm ignoring you. And they tell it directly to their face. And I look at them and I go, that's not what ignoring means. I'm telling you the amount of times I've had that conversation. I love them, but man, they just look at each other like, I'm ignoring you. Ignore you. And like the best part is half the time the other kid does get offended. They're like, oh, and they'll like call me and they'll be like, he's ignoring me. And I was like, he's not though. Like you're having a conversation still, guys. Like, and I sit there and I'm like, okay, let's talk about this. It's an interesting one. So every time I think about ignoring something, I'm just like, the amount of times I've said it, but then the amount of times it's not gone way through smooth. So ignore. All right.
Listen, I will say on behalf of 5th graders everywhere, it takes a lot of self-control to ignore somebody that's really bugging you. So
Yeah, that it's very true.
hats off to them.
Yes, and a lot of the and like when I taught 3rd grade, they did the exact same thing. It was much worse, much worse. A lot of the 5th graders now they finally have gotten better about it. I still have a few that I taught in 3rd grade that are still on it, and I'm like, and after they say I ignore you, and I just look at them, I give them this look like, and then they go, I know, ignore them, and then they get back to the work, and I'm like, oh, so you do know what it means. You remember when I taught you in 3rd grade, and now you're just like, oh, that's right. I'm not supposed to say ignore them. It's a whole thing. Bless their hearts. I love them. They want to stick it to them. They want to be like, ha, I'm ignoring you. And it's like, that's not how it works, but that's okay. That's okay. So, okay. I'm trying to remember where I stopped before I went going. I think we started back with nosy. Because we had curious, but I think, yeah. Okay. So we finished with frustrated and then we did nosy and we have not stopped since then. Okay. Well, okay, we have 10 minutes left actually, since we did the chat this morning. Are you guys okay with, oh my gosh, going ahead and doing the rest of the signs that we have on this list, just going ahead and not reviewing unless we have time at the end? Is that fine with y'all? Okay, perfect. All right. So the next one we're going to do is the sign for confused. And so the sign for confused, you probably saw me doing it a little bit earlier. It's going to be 2 5s. You're going to put your non-dominant kind of in front of your face. Your non-dominant. Your dominant's in front of your face. Your non-dominant comes over here. And you're going to do like circular motions. Confused. confused. Like, so me, I'm confused. And the reason with this one is kind of like, it's blurry. It's not a smooth, like clear, like you can see what is being said. So confused, confusing. If you do it up here, that's clouds. So I'd recommend having it down low. Just saying. Confused. Then we have mean. So for mean, you're going to start. I always have to sign it first before I describe it because you do such a fast motion and that starting it, I always will explain it wrong. So you're going to start with 2 5s. Your dominant, golly, your dominant's up here near your head while your non-dominant is kind of lower down by your chest. And you're going to bring your dominant down. And as you do it, your non-dominant kind of comes up a bit, but you're going to turn them into fists. Mean, 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 mean. It's a very like fast motion, mean, mean. It's one of those hard ones to describe just because when you slow it down, it's like, it looks weird. Mean, mean. Then we have rude. So there are 2 ways you can do rude. One of them I do more, I use, and I've seen it been a little bit more common. There is another one. It can get easily confused with another sign, so I will be explaining that one when we get to it. The first one we have for rude is a Y. You're gonna have your thumb go in the opposite corner cheek, and you're gonna bring it across your chin. Rude. Rude. You are being rude. 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 The other one is your non-dominant palm up, middle finger of your dominant, and you go rude. 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 Now, the reason this one can get easily confused is if you turn it back, and that's naked. Yeah, naked. So like you got no clothes. Yeah, naked. So rude, naked.
That is
very
actually hilarious because I did not hear you. I was sitting back here and I was
saw
like,
your
what
face
did she
kinda
say?
squirm. Yeah, I was like, well, I'm like, she probably is like, surely she misheard me. Yeah, no, I said it right. Rude, naked. Very easily, one little simple mistake, and that changes the whole conversation you're doing. So I always like to go rude. Yeah, easily can get mad, confused, and be like, what is happening? Yeah, so rude. That's just my little like tidbit. Okay. The next one we have is nice, which nice we did, I think when we did nice to meet you, which we'll refresh that one because I think we did that like maybe our first class. So nice is going to have your palm, non-dominant palm up, dominant hand comes flat and slides across. Nice. 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 So we had nice, and then to meet was 2 pointer fingers, depending on who you're talking to. I'll just have it sideways for this. So nice to meet. Meet. And then you would go you. So nice to meet you. Now, I am going to say I did this sideways so you can see what I was doing. You really do want to do it directly to them. So nice to meet you. Because if you were to do it sideways like this, you were talking about these 2 people meeting. Palm up is rude. See, I told you, it's so easy to get that one. I'm telling you, even I would like for years, I was like, oh, I don't know which one that is. Rude. I just put that hand down, be like, no, we're not trying. Rude. So nice to meet you. You kind of have like, you're gonna have your knuckles end up touching when they meet. There you go. Yeah, meet you. There you go. Okay. The next one is smart. And so for smart, you're going to have your middle finger. Again, you're going to come to the side of your head and you're going to go smart, 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 smart. Then we have cool. And this is not like the cool, like cool down. No, this is like that's cool, awesome, bet, cool, that sort of thing. And it's like you're holding a little pinch and you're going to come and you're going to go cool. Cool. It's like the corner of your mouth and I love how I say corner of your mouth when I mean like corner of your chin, basically, I guess. Cool. Cool. Mm-hmm. Cool. Cool. Okay. The next one I have is awkward. Awkward is two threes. You're gonna turn them down and you're gonna bounce them back and forth. Awkward. Awkward. Awkward.
I love this sign.
Well, I'm obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with it. I used to like
It's so
repeatedly
great.
say in school, awkward turtle, awkward turtle. I don't know why. No understanding why. I think it was just because like we talked about this when I talked about animals, how much I loved the sign for turtle. Okay. Literally loved this sign. And then I loved awkward. So I just go awkward turtle. Like I'd sign it to my friends and they have no idea. Like I'd have one who'd catch it and start laughing because she knew what I said, but she like was like, and then others would be like, what'd she say? What'd she say? And I just go, awkward. And they'd be like, yeah, it's a whole thing. I will never forget that in high school. I was really proud of myself just going awkward turtle all the time. Yeah, that was my phrase. So, but yeah, I also loved awkward. All right. Our next one, we have, I think, four more, is the sign for strange. Okay. Now, for strange, you're going to have a big open C and you're going to go strange. 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 I think we talked about this with people, right? Because didn't I say I'm talking about stranger? Yeah, because I was looking at, I was like, I was about to get an
That was
explanation.
like an early class when we first started talking about how some signs can mean lots of things and some signs are very specific.
Yeah, because I was talking about how with this one, you wouldn't use it for stranger, like someone you don't know. You would use that for a strange person, like they were being a weirdo. That. So, okay, good. So we don't have to go through that again. Okay, perfect. The next one we have is surprise. And I love how I even did it over down here when I signed it. I was trying not to, and I still did it. So when you do surprise, it's like 2 20s. You're gonna put them next to your eyes, and you're gonna go surprise, surprise, surprise. Literally, you're just like surprise, surprise. Okay. Our I actually am gonna add right here one more real quick one. Is the sign for like celebrate or celebration. When you know, like when we clap our hands, when we're cheering for something, or like, ah, oops, well, that's it. Like when we clap for like birthdays, things like that. In ASL, instead of clapping, you wave your hands, like wave fives up here. Woo! Which is what you saw me doing when I went like this. Because I do both now. I go back and forth. At school, I'm only ever this. But yeah, I will still, like, if I'm out, like, in public, I will still do clap and then wave. Except for my sister's apparently college graduation. My sister graduated this past May. And at her graduation, when they were starting things and they were announcing stuff, I full confidence lifted my hands up and waved like this. Didn't even think for a minute. And my brother was sitting next to me at this time, and he looks at me and goes, what are you doing? Everyone's like got their arms down here clapping, and I'm over here with my arms up. And I went, and I put them down so fast. Didn't even realize I was doing that. So yeah, it was very awkward. I was like, whoopsies. I've embraced it now, especially when I have those moments. But yeah, my brother was like, when he finally
Listen,
he goes,
if I had been at that graduation, I would have known.
you would have
I'm
been able
sure
to
other
see
people
it.
would have known.
Oh, they should. They so should have. Well, and that's part was when my brother, like, when he asked me what I was doing, and then I put my hands down and I went to clapping. He went, "That's an ASL thing, isn't it?" And I was like, "Yeah, it was." So, yeah, that'll happen. But I just think this one's fun too because it shows a little more excitement. So, celebrate. Okay, I know it's 6:30. I'm gonna just give one more because I think this one's a good one. There's two, it's really two, but one and two different words and one sign, similar ones. Um, so the first one is loyal, like you're loyal to someone and it's loyal. So you like have the L and you're gonna like kind of give it with attitude to your shoulder. Loyal, loyal, loyal. And then the last one I was going to say is lazy. Lazy is the L, but you tap it. Lazy, lazy, lazy. So lazy doesn't even get a shake. It's just straight into your shoulder. Lazy.
But so for loyal, you want
It's
them
like,
to see the L, like
yeah,
you're
you to
going
come
like
out
this.
because you're
Okay.
showing it's like with pride. It's almost like having a
Because
badge.
this is also where your badges are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I would think of it like a badge of honor. Like I wear this badge with pride. I'm loyal.
Right.
Loyal.
Whereas lazy, you're like,
Like you can't even move your arm to go anywhere.
yeah.
So yeah. Are there any last little questions you guys have? I know it's a little past time, but I just want to see.
I have a question. Have I lost my mind? Is this the seventh class or the sixth class?
I think it's the seventh, isn't it?
Did I lose a class somewhere? I lost count.
Listen, I feel like every time we
It
have this,
is.
every time we lose our class times. Like by the time we get to like the fifth, sixth, and seventh and eighth one, I'm like, which one
What
is it?
is time?
I mean, oh yeah. I mean, there was that one class where I fully didn't realize it was the eighth class until we were sitting here and I went, no, surely not. Do you remember that? I was
Like it
flabbergasted.
happens.
It was bad. I was like, okay. I mean, the class itself wasn't bad. It was just my face was like, what?
It was apparent.
Yeah, I told you, don't hide my emotions. So,
But somebody must have been, it must have been like a wedding or something. You know, there were times where you were out of town for something big and
yeah. So,
yeah.
but alrighty. Well, next class is going to be kind of our hodgepodge class of different kind of
We have
topics.
some weather
Mm-hmm.
and there is something else. We could do money because there were so few, you know, so that you could say cash or card or what, you know.
Yeah. And then also I think we can do like objects, like common objects and things like that,
Mhm.
that would be helpful. And then I think we haven't done some locations actually.
Yeah, we haven't because I think before we've done library, but also like hospital,
Mm-hmm.
school, bank, what, you know.
So we'll do those and then we'll kind of have it's your choice. You can ask whatever questions and signs you guys want to know
Yeah.
next. So, alrighty. Well, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of y'all's week and I will see you guys all next Tuesday. Bye, guys.
Bye, y'all. Have a good week. Bye.